Let me ask you a question. When you have a headache, what do you take? Aspirin? Paracetamol? Ibuprofen? In the Middle Ages, doctors also gave you something for headaches: ground human skull. Yes, you heard that correctly. Powder made from a dead person's skull, mixed with wine and drunk. This is one of the most horrifying secrets of medieval medicine. It was called corpse medicine, and today we will reveal its true face. Imagine this. You are in Europe, and it is the year 1600. A famous doctor prescribes you a medicine. You go to the apothecary. The apothecary hands you a bottle. Inside it is powdered human skull. This was not a crime. It was an official medical treatment. Doctors believed in it. Patients drank it. The church allowed it. This channel shares the darkest medical secrets of history every day. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Press the bell icon, because this video is only the beginning. So what was corpse medicine? Corpse medicine meant making remedies from parts of the human body. It began in ancient times, but it became most widespread in Europe during the 16th and 17th centuries. Doctors believed that parts of the human body carried a special power. To transfer this power to the patient, the part had to be consumed. The most commonly used parts were human skull for headaches and epilepsy, human fat for burns and wounds, human blood for epilepsy and weakness, human heart for heart diseases, human bones for bone illnesses. This was not seen as barbaric, it was considered scientific. The most famous corpse medicine was powdered human skull. In Latin it was called usnea, or cranii humani pulvis. That means powder of the human skull. But how was it prepared? The skull of a dead person was taken, it was dried, then it was ground with a special stone until it became powder. This powder was mixed with wine, honey, or other remedies and given to the patient to drink. What was considered the best skull? Doctors believed the most powerful skull came from a young man who had been executed, because he was healthy, young, strong. For this reason, apothecaries often waited near execution grounds, ready to obtain the skull once a man had been hanged. Human blood was also considered a powerful medicine. For epilepsy patients, one of the most famous treatments was this: drinking the blood of an executed person while it was still warm. This belief began during the time of the Roman emperors and continued into the Middle Ages. At execution grounds, epilepsy patients would wait. When the execution happened, they would hold out bottles, collect the blood, and drink it immediately. This practice continued in Europe until the 18th century. Imagine a sick person, full of hope. A doctor has told them, "This will help you," and they believe it because there is no other choice. Human fat was used to treat burns and wounds. Surgeons would save the fat they removed during operations. Later, they would apply it to wounds. It was especially used for battle injuries, sword wounds, arrow wounds. Human fat was rubbed onto them. The belief was simple: what comes from the human body can heal the human body. An interesting fact, sometimes this actually worked. Why? Because fat could protect a wound from bacteria. The scientific reason was different, but the result was sometimes correct. Corpse medicine was not only for the poor, kings used it too. The King of England, Charles II of England, suffered from epilepsy. His personal physician created a special medicine. The medicine was called King's Drops. What was inside it? Powdered human skull mixed with alcohol. This medicine was officially given to the king. It was prepared by royal physicians and considered a remedy of the highest quality. Charles II drank this medicine for most of his life. His epilepsy never disappeared, but he believed in it. The greatest supporter of corpse medicine was Paracelsus. Paracelsus was a Swiss physician who lived in the 16th century. At the time, he was considered one of the greatest medical geniuses. He believed that every part of the human body carried a special power, and that using this power was our medical duty. Paracelsus created dozens of remedies using human fat, blood, and skulls. He wrote books. He trained students. His methods spread throughout Europe. For generations, doctors followed in his footsteps. Today, Paracelsus is considered one of the fathers of chemical medicine. Some of his discoveries were truly valuable. But corpse medicine remains one of his darkest chapters. An interesting question. What did the Church say about this? The Church considered the dead sacred. Touching a corpse was seen as a sin. Yet corpse medicine flourished during the Church's era. Why? Because the Church did not officially oppose it. Some members of the clergy even used it themselves. There was only one exception. Using the bodies of Christians was restricted. Because of this, the bodies of executed criminals, Jews and Muslims were used more often. This was a terrible discrimination, but it was the reality. When did corpse medicine come to an end? In the 18th century, scientific medicine began to develop. Bacteria were discovered, anesthesia was introduced, surgery advanced. Gradually, doctors realized that parts of corpses did not truly work. Diseases did not disappear. Sometimes they even caused infections. But it did not end immediately. Even in the 19th century, some apothecaries secretly sold parts of corpses. The last official record dates to 1908. In Germany, an apothecary was still selling powdered human skull. Less than 100 years ago. Today, if you have a headache, you take an aspirin. 5 minutes. It passes. But in the year 1600, a doctor would hand you a bottle. Inside it was powdered human skull from a dead person, and you would drink it. Because the doctor said so, because there was no other choice. Modern medicine is a miracle, because in the past, it was horror, but the most horrifying part hasn't even begun. In the Middle Ages, some doctors also made medicines from living humans. Sweat, urine, hair, nails, these were considered remedies. But the most terrifying of all was the brain of a living person. Some doctors believed that a living person's brain was more potent than that of a dead person. This belief was documented. It was written in books. Some historical sources even recorded it. Holy blood was considered the most valuable medicine. In Europe, there was a belief that the blood of a saint could cure all diseases. Some patients would go to churches, soak a piece of cloth in the blood flowing from a saint's wound, and then consume it. This was officially forbidden by the church, yet people did it in secret. Mummy powder was one of the most expensive medicines. What is mummy powder? It came from the black substance on Egyptian mummies, which was made from human remains that had been preserved for many years. European traders traveled to Egypt, opened tombs, and took the mummies onto ships bound for Europe. Apothecaries bought the mummies, ground them into powder, and sold them to patients. In the 16th century, Europe had a thriving mummy trade. It became so extensive that tombs in Egypt began to dwindle. Fraudsters also got involved. They would take recently deceased people, dry them in the hot sun, and sell them as mummies. Apothecaries knew, but they bought it anyway, because there was demand. The strangest belief was sympathetic magic. According to this belief, if a person consumed part of another person's body, they would gain that person's traits. Eat the heart of a brave warrior, and you become brave. Eat the brain of a wise man, and you become wise. Eat the arm of a strong man, and you become strong. It was like a form of primitive zombie magic, yet this was recorded in official European medical books. Doctors genuinely believed it. One of the most horrifying medical procedures was the blood bath. Some wealthy patients believed that the blood of young people contained the power of youth. They would buy poor young people, drain their blood, and bathe in it. They believed the youthful blood would penetrate the skin, cure disease, and restore youth. This is a documented fact. It actually happened in 15th to 16th century Europe. Pope Innocent VIII fell gravely ill in 1492. His personal physician made a decision. 3 young boys were found, their blood was drained, and the Pope drank it. All 3 boys died, and so did the Pope. The blood transfusion failed, but the physician was not blamed because he had followed medical protocol. The longest-lasting corpse medicine was candles made from human fat. They were called plague candles. Made from human fat, they were burned beside the patient. It was believed that the candlelight would drive away disease and the smoke would kill bacteria. These candles were sold in churches, officially. The church made money from it. The last recorded sale of such a candle was in 1847 in England. The least known aspect of corpse medicine was the medicines given to children. In the Middle Ages, when a child fell ill, parents desperately tried everything. Doctors also administered corpse medicine to children. The most commonly used ingredient was the fat of a deceased infant. It was believed that infant fat was especially pure and potent. Imagine a mother. Her child is sick. A doctor arrives and gives a medicine. The mother does not ask what is in it, because she trusts the doctor. The child drinks it. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes it does not. The mother has no idea what she has given her child. This happened in every home, every city, every village. The strangest part of corpse medicine involved holy relics. In the Middle Ages, parts of saints' bodies were cut and sold as medicine. This was officially forbidden by the church, but it continued in secret. In some churches, fingers, teeth, and bones of saints were kept. Patients would pay to touch them, to kiss them. They believed that simply touching the relic could cure disease. Sometimes, small pieces were secretly shaved off, ground into powder, and sold. Holy powder was the most expensive medicine, more valuable than gold. The most horrific trade was in infant corpses. In the Middle Ages, infant mortality was extremely high. Every family had a deceased infant. Some apothecaries bought these infants from families for money. Families sold them out of need. The fat, skulls, and bones of these infants were processed into medicine and sold at high prices. And the most horrifying part? Who were the biggest buyers of these medicines? Mothers of sick children. To save their own children, they purchased parts of other children. This was real. It is documented. The longest-lasting part of corpse medicine was wine made from human blood. Sanguis hominis, human blood wine. This was sold across Europe up to the 18th century. How it was made. The blood of a healthy young person was drawn, mixed with wine, special herbs were added, and it was aged for several months before sale. The donors were poor young people. They sold their blood for money. Sometimes so much blood was taken that the young person weakened. Sometimes they died. In other words, to cure the sick, they killed healthy people. At the end of the 1700s, an English doctor wrote a book against corpse medicine. "These medicines do not work," he said. "You are deceiving people," he said. "This is a crime," he said. Doctors laughed at him. Apothecaries attacked him. The church cursed him. He lost his job. He lost his home. His family abandoned him. But he was right. A century later, modern medicine proved everything he had said. He lost his life, but he told the truth. His name was William Beckett. Today, no one remembers him. but he was one of the bravest doctors of all time.